women's volleyball coach Jen Greeny. Jen, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, what a great Friday, right?
It's a great Friday. And, Ren Baker, the athletic director of West Virginia University, you were one of the hires he's made. He's made a lot of hires, but you have revitalized the women's volleyball program at West Virginia University. But a lot of people were surprised because we didn't really have that good of a program. You came from a really good one in the Pac-12 in Washington University. What inspired your move to come from University of Washington here to Morgantown?
Well, when the Pac-12 dissolved, and actually I came from Washington State, so I would never live in Seattle either.
Where's Washington State's in what? Tacoma?
It is in Pullman, Washington, which is a farm town, a little more conservative on that side of the state. So, yeah, I would never live in Seattle either. But yeah, when the Pac-12, dissolved, and college athletics is a crazy, crazy place right now. And so Ren Baker called, and it was kind of the perfect time to get out. Washington State had no home, nowhere to go, no conference. And so being in the Big 12 is definitely something that interested us. And then, rebuilding programs. And you're right, this program has not had a lot of success, but that's what we're here to do is grow it and make it great.
It's not the easiest place to recruit for women's volleyball. How have you gotten players, top level players, which have revitalized your program? Have you got the portal and everything, but what is how do you get them to come to West Virginia? Because we're not a storied volleyball program.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Really trying to just sell us as coaches, and, the people here in West Virginia are great. They care a lot about their athletes and their sports programs. But we like to train as well. So, sometimes getting some of those kind of underrated athletes and then training them is going to help as well. And we've got some foreign kids also coming in. Sometimes that helps us because they're not quite sure where West Virginia is, but we're just here to, take care of them and get them an education. And, we had a lot of professional players, that we trained. And so that's really intriguing to them as well.
Tell us about your own volleyball playing career, coach.
Yeah, so I actually was more of a basketball player. I was highly recruited in basketball, and then, played a little bit of volleyball just for my high school, but then started getting recruited for volleyball. And volleyball is such an up and coming sport, really exciting, fast-paced game. And, it's getting a lot more attention right now. So I actually chose to play both at Washington State. And that's kind of how my volleyball career took off. I ended up being, all Pac-10 at that time and all American, and, just got into coaching. And so it's a really, really fun sport. And, hopefully we can get a lot more, fans, and volleyball will continue to grow across the country.
Now, Jen, it's kind of an interesting story. You're coming here from Washington State because this is unique. So our listeners know around the country, Jen's assistant coach, get this, her assistant coach for the women's volleyball team is her husband. So walk us through how this works.
Yeah, well, we met at Washington State. He was actually a baseball player. He played a couple years in the Milwaukee Brewers system, minor league baseball, and he was kind of coaching baseball. I was coaching volleyball, and I got a job at a small NAIA school, and thought, well, you know a lot about athletics and nothing about volleyball, but I said, we'll do it for a year. We'll see how it goes. And now it's been 18 years later that we have coached together. Can I say boss at home and boss at work? Not so sure about that, but he does a lot of our recruiting and really likes that. So I guess when I get tired of him, I can just send him out.
So what's your husband's name?
Burdette. Yeah, Burdette. Yep.
So you tell Burdett that he and John Fredericks have a tremendous amount in common.
Yes.
My wife, Ann, is the CEO of our company. So I'm the mere figurehead. She makes the majority of the decisions. And so tell him that I also get told what to do, or bossed around, however you want to put it, by my wife, basically 7 days a week, 365.
Yeah. There,
So we're
you
in the
guys
same
can
boat.
commiserate.
We're in the same boat.
I'm sure at some point in time.
It's not easy to do, but after a while, you just get accustomed to it. And look, happy wife, happy life. It's all you have to remember. Tell your husband that.
I'll tell him that.
But that's a fascinating dynamic. And I would think that if you put him in charge of recruiting, when he goes out and recruiting people, it's easy for him to talk about the culture of the program because he's talking about his wife, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, I hope he's not making up stuff, half the time that he's out there. But it has worked well. We both definitely have our strengths, and there's definitely a built-in kind of family atmosphere that we have, in our team and in our program, and I think that's great.
Tell us about with the new NIL situation now and the portal, West Virginia, Big 12, but obviously it's not Ohio State, it's not Michigan, it's not Georgia, we're not Auburn. So we have enough money to compete, but certainly not the money that some of those schools have. And right now the NIL is like the Wild West, right? Yeah. How do you recruit and compete in that environment until the NCAA puts some restrictions on it?
Yeah, it has definitely been a trickle-down effect. It really started, of course, the NIL with football and men's basketball and baseball, but it has definitely trickled down to all of our sports. And I think it has made our jobs pretty tough. We used to just recruit and coach, and now we're, CEOs and general managers and raising money. So it is definitely becoming more and more difficult. So I would love to see the NCAA put some restrictions on, but the transfer portal has been pretty good to us. Sometimes getting some players that are maybe coming from some smaller schools that want to finish their career in a big conference like the Big 12. But so far West Virginia, especially volleyball, we don't have the kind of NIL money that, teams like Baylor or, used to be Texas, glad they're gone from the conference. But, we're getting there and we're working hard. And sometimes you just got to say, hey, you're coming here to really make an impact on the program and help us grow. And we can go from there.
Jen, right now we have a national audience listening to you all over the country and seeing you on video. And you're in the midst of rebuilding a program for women's volleyball in West Virginia University that I think is going to be very, very special very soon. Young high schoolers, seniors, people at maybe an NAIA, junior college, or maybe a D3, D2, smaller D1. What is your message to them? Why should they come and look at evaluate playing for Coach Jen Greeny? Why?
Yeah, I think that, West Virginia is a special place as far as you can, put your name on something that we're building. You're just kind of not another number. People are really going to remember you. The people of West Virginia and our fans love to embrace our student athletes here. And like I mentioned before, we love to train, and we've had 18 players go play professionally, mostly overseas now that the United States it has some professional volleyball leagues as well. We have a couple players that we've trained that are in those leagues. So, somebody that just really wants to be in a great atmosphere, get trained well, go on and play, or, make that next move. For sure, coming to West Virginia. I mean, we're ready to make a splash in the Big 12 and surprise some people. So, it's just not your run of the mill, every day, what are Kansas or Texas or, Pitt even. I know there's some Pennsylvania Pitt fans up there, but somebody that's really going to just make an impact and be the change.
Jen, we're with head women's volleyball coach at West Virginia University. Jen Greeny came from Washington State in the middle of revitalizing that program. Jen, give us a feel for, in volleyball, your scholarship allotment.
Yeah, that's also something else that is changing, in college athletics, or it's supposed to be. We're going to have a scholarship limit of 18, but we've had across the board in Division I women's volleyball only 12 full scholarships. So there's now going to be some roster limits. We've had walk-ons and things like that, but there's going to be some disparity in the big programs as far as funding goes. Some of those high profile volleyball programs like, probably Nebraska, Wisconsin are going to be, funding 18 full scholarships. And, we're going to have to figure out how we can, get some more scholarships and get some more money. That's the name of the game, because you want to be able to compete at the highest level.
You mentioned a few times, Coach Greeny, about training. You mentioned the word training several times. And you're a volleyball coach. Obviously, your women come in, they play volleyball. Just elaborate on the training that you mentioned. Like, how does that work? What is that?
Yeah, for sure. We're really fundamental based. I think sometimes coaches are a little bit more of the team aspect and just kind of rolling the ball out and playing a lot of, scrimmaging, 6-on-6, things like that. But for us, a lot of times when we're recruiting, maybe not some of the more polished student athletes, really focusing on the fundamentals. And volleyball is an interesting game. Like I mentioned, I was also a basketball player. I think it's a little bit easier. You can hide somebody a little bit that's maybe not as talented on the basketball court. Like, never shoot the ball, just set screens and rebound. For us, for volleyball, you have to be a very skilled player, kind of in every skill. You have to be able to pass, set, serve, dig, block, hit. Everybody has to be able to do every skill. So we spend a lot of time just on those fundamental skills. And I think that's really what helps us, even if we have some, like I said, not as polished recruits, but as they grow and as they get better and as we train them, we're able to compete.
Tell us about the height factor.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, we need to get taller. I can tell you that. Right now, women especially are getting taller and taller and more athletic and more dynamic. So, I think, especially at the Power 4 level, and maybe it's not so much how tall our players are and our front row especially, but how high they can touch and how high they can jump. One of our middle blockers is touching, 10-7, 10-8. So I think the kind of the normal now for, power conference hitters is, touching well over 10 feet. It used to kind of be around 10 foot, but now, we have players in the United States touching almost 11 feet, which is incredible.
Not to get into politics, because that's not the purpose of this show, but
it is Friday. Why not?
It is. I love your attitude. President Trump just signed an executive order where biological men, cannot play in women's athletics in college or high school. Did you have to compete with any men that were playing volleyball? I know we also the tape of one woman getting hurt bad because a guy spiked a ball on her or something. Is that something that you've had to deal with?
Luckily, it's something that we have not had to deal with. But I know there are some conferences across the country that were having to deal with that. There were a lot of forfeit games, in the Mountain West. But luckily, we didn't have to come across any of that. But glad that the NCAA has, stepped up and made that more clear for sure. When
you look at the NCAA, they're trying to we talked about this earlier, we talk about with Coach Sabins with this, and also AD Baker, Ren Baker at WVU, that the NCAA is likely to put some guardrails around this NIL thing. And then players are going to be able to be paid directly for some of the revenue sports as well. It is when you look at the NIL as a head coach at a Power 4 college, what are some of the main guardrails as a coach that you want, Jen?
Well, I think for us specifically in a really non-revenue sport, and I think Title IX, for me as a female student athlete and as a coach, and we also have 2 daughters that are athletes. I think Title IX is very important, and I hope that doesn't get lost in this shuffle, because I would hate to see NCAA really just focusing on football and men's basketball and those high revenue sports. So hopefully we can still keep some of those guardrails up to have other sports and female sports especially, because I think that's really important. And especially how popular volleyball is becoming. It's the #1 participation sport in the country by a long ways.
Really? I mean,
when we go recruiting to some of these national qualifiers, there's 10,000 volleyball players in a weekend at these convention centers. It's unbelievable. Volleyball is by far the #1 participation sport for high schoolers, and it's still growing. So, the NCAA and athletic directors and presidents and everyone making these decisions really needs to realize that as well.
So for our fans and listeners that are not exactly familiar with college volleyball, when is the season?
It's in the fall. So, same as football, we'll start practice the beginning of August and start competition that last, weekend in August. And then it goes through, our Final Four is, typically right before Christmas. But, I don't know if people saw that Nebraska had 92,000 fans. They played in their football stadium a couple of years ago, which was just really unbelievable. It was the largest, event attendance-wise for a women's sport in history. So, and just more and more TV coverage as well. But yeah, it's a fall sport. So right now we're in our, spring training, kind of same as, football does. We've got, a spring training block, and then we're kind of off for the summer, just doing a lot of strength and conditioning and summer camps and things like that.
When does your practice for 2025, when does it actually start?
Yeah, it'll we're doing some training right now in the spring, but practice typically starts around August, 5th or 6th, somewhere around there. And then we get right into it.
All right, Jen Greeny, I want to thank you for being with us. People want to follow you, Jen, on social media. Where do they go?
Yeah, so I'm on X at JA Greeny, and I also have Instagram, Jen Greeny, and I'm sure good old Facebook too, but I don't check that as much anymore. But and then of course you can follow West Virginia Volleyball at WVU Volleyball.
So if there's a listener right now, junior or senior in high school, that is eligible to talk to a college coach, obviously you have to be a certain age. I think I know in baseball, it's like going in your junior season or something.
Same thing. Yep.
It's the same thing. But if people wanted to contact you directly and say, "Hey, I'm interested. Tell me more," where would they go? How would they reach you?
Yeah, for sure. Email is probably the best way. Jennifer.greeny@mail.wvu.edu.
Jennifer.Greeny, Greeny at mail.wvu. What?
Edu.
Right. So we'll get that. Tyler, put that up in the Chiron there for Jen. Want to thank Coach Jen Greeny, coming from Washington State. Jen, welcome to West Virginia. Hope your family is enjoying it like we do. Although Ann and I live in Pittsburgh, so we're in the Berg.
I won't hold that against you.
I know, right? Penguins. I got to bring you to a Penguins game. We can't beat anybody. We get beat by San Jose. We get beat by the Kraken. It's a sad state of affairs, Jen. Sad state of affairs. You got to do something for the hockey team.
I know.
We put a little, put a little oomph in them, right? We're getting old. Salary cap. I don't know what the hell's going on with there, but Penguins are pathetic. Anyway, Jen, we didn't come here to talk about the plight of the Penguins. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for
Good
having
seeing
me.
you. Up next, it's like West Virginia Coaches Day, Jen.
Absolutely.
Coach Steve Sabins. Hey, 1 week from today, Jen, guess where we'll be? Jacksonville State,
I was
baby.
going to say somewhere warm.
Let's go.